Vincent Delacroix's penthouse wasn't just a home. It was a temple to wealth, gleaming glass walls overlooking the glittering New York skyline, marble floors cold as elegance, and chandeliers that cost more than a small town on the last Friday of every spring. He hosted a gala that was the talk of Wall Street, Fifth Avenue, and every influencer's Instagram. Men wore suits stitched by hands in Italy. Women wore diamonds large enough to blind, and Vincent, he stood like a king, tall, magnetic, smug, a man so used to being the center of the world. He rarely looked beyond his own reflection. He laughed with his friends, drink in hand. Already high on ego. "You know what I did," he said, loud, enough for his inner circle to hear. "I sent a formal invitation to the cleaning girl." "The what?" someone asked, chuckling. "The janitor," Vincent smirked. "The quiet one. Mira, she works on the 38th floor. Always has her hair in a bun. Wears those same ragged shoes." The men burst out laughing. "She's invisible," another chimed in. Vincent shrugged, grinning. "I thought it'd be funny. She probably won't even come. I just wanted to see what would happen. Imagine her walking in with her mop. No one thought she would actually show up. But Mira had received the invitation. She'd found it in her locker at the end of a long shift. She nearly dropped it. The envelope was cream-colored, thick, expensive. Her name was written in elegant ink. She read it once, then again, her breath catching in her throat. Her fingers trembled as she held it under the dim kitchen light that flickered in her tiny apartment. She thought of ignoring it. It had to be a mistake, or worse, a cruel prank. But she couldn't throw it away. She taped the invitation to her wall and stared at it for hours. Something inside her stood. Something that had been buried beneath years of struggle. She remembered who she used to be, not just a cleaner. Before her mother got sick, before her father disappeared, before bills, sacrifice, and exhaustion, before the world stopped seeing her, she was once the top of her class. She could quote Tolstoy, solve equations in her sleep. She used to dream of running non-profits, of changing systems, not scrubbing the dirt off their walls. That night, she stood in front of a cracked mirror and whispered to herself, "You were never invisible." They just never looked. The next day, Mira did something she hadn't done in years. She took time for herself. She asked for help. She walked into a second-hand boutique where the clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, noticed the way Mira nervously clutched the invitation. "Something special?" the woman asked. "A gala," Mira whispered. The woman smiled. "Then let's make magic." It took hours, but they found the perfect dress. Midnight blue with tiny silver beading that looked like stars. Fitted at the waist, soft at the shoulders, elegant without trying too hard. Mira changed behind a curtain, and when she stepped out, even she didn't recognize herself. She visited a salon using a coupon she'd been saving for years. The stylist gasped when Mira showed her the invitation. "We're going to make them. Remember you," she said with a wink. By the time the gala arrived, Mira stood in front of her mirror with her hair cascading in soft curls, her dress hugging her form, and a fire in her eyes. She took a cab to the tower, her heart pounding with every block. The doorman almost didn't let her in, until he saw her name on the list. He stepped aside, stunned. The elevator hummed as it ascended to the rooftop. Mira took a deep breath when the doors opened. Silence followed. Dozens of eyes turned and stared. Mira walked into the golden ballroom like a comet in slow motion. The laughter stopped. Vincent nearly dropped his glass. Who was this woman? She didn't flinch under the stairs. Her heels clicked against the marble. Her chin lifted. She looked like royalty. She belonged there. More than half the guests. Vincent stepped forward, trying to keep his cool. "Well, "You showed up," he said, half amused, half panicked. "You invited me," Mir replied softly, but clearly. He blinked, then gave a shallow laugh. "Well, you clean up well." Mir smiled, not politely, not cruelly, but with quiet grace. "You know what's funny?" she asked. He tilted his head, and sure, "I've walked past you for 2 years, cleaned your office, organized your mess. You never looked me in the eye. You didn't know my name." Vincent's smirk faded, "But I knew yours. Everyone does. You're powerful, charming, rich, and so very small." People nearby started listening. A ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. "I came because I wanted to see it for myself," she continued. "What it looks like. The world you live in. The world that never sees people like me." Then, slowly, her voice softened. "But I'm not angry. I'm just not invisible anymore." With that, Mira turned from him and walked into the heart of the gala. People rushed to meet her. She dazzled them, not with arrogance, not with flash, but with knowledge, heart, and poise. She spoke with a famous author about Dostoevsky. She discussed urban poverty with a politician. She danced with a jazz musician, laughed with an actress, and gave advice to a tech CEO's daughter about staying true to herself. Vincent watched, stunned, as the woman he once ignored became the queen of his party. The ego nudged him. You wanted to make her the joke, but she just became the story. The next morning, Mira's name was everywhere. Who was the mysterious star at Delacroix Gala? Cleaner stuns Manhattan with one night of brilliance. But Mira didn't read the news. She returned to work that Monday, cleaned the floors one last time, gave her resignation quietly, respectfully. On her way out, the receptionist gave her a hug. "You inspired me," she whispered. Vincent tried to call her. She didn't answer. Then he tried to find her, but she was gone. A few weeks later, a foundation she'd spoken to at the gala offered her a scholarship. Full ride. She would return to school. She would become who she always was meant to be. Months passed. One autumn evening, Vincent was at a different gala. Quieter, more meaningful. This time for actual charity. He heard applause and turned to see the guest speaker step onto the stage. It was Mira in a white pantsuit. Radiant, calm. She gave a speech about hope, resilience, and the unseen, about dignity, about remembering people even when the world forgets them. Vincent didn't blink. He didn't speak. He just listened. As she walked off stage, their eyes met from across the room. She didn't smile. She just nodded. And he nodded back.